Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another English class here on verbling.com. My name is Lisa, and in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. In the last hour, we did a speaking class, which was a show and tell class. It was really awesome. The students here on Verbling are just amazing, and they did a really good job giving some short presentations about some very interesting topics. We learned about Edinburgh and self-protection and salsa dancing in Colombia and a small town in Brazil named Sarita. And also we got to learn about the monument that is at the middle of the world in Quito, Ecuador, which I didn't really know about. So that was pretty cool. So thanks, guys, for participating in that class. In this hour, we're going to be reading an article from the New Yorker magazine. Online, of course, and I posted the link to the article in the Verbling chat, and as people come in, I can also post it in the group chat if necessary. So if you have a reservation for this hour, of course you can use it now. If you don't have a reservation but you want to read with us, then you can join us when you see the join class button, which should be available now or very soon. So hi guys, welcome everybody, come on in, and I'm going to say hi to everybody. Make sure your microphones are working, and then we can get started. If you want, you can open the link to the article, which I put in the group chat and also in the Verbling chat. So hi Anatoly, how are you?
Hello Lisa, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you had a birthday recently. Is that right?
Not break. I was busy a little.
Oh no, you had a birthday.
Birthday.
Your birthday.
Yes. Thank you for your wishes.
Yeah. Did you do anything special?
Nothing special. We have with my wife follow days of birthday. She was born 21 February, and the second I was born on the second 22 February, and we
Wow,
celebrated together.
wow, that's nice. Interesting. Yeah, 21 and 22. Cool. Well, my son, he will be having a birthday somewhere in the universe, but he's a special leap day, 29th of February. So his birthday, he was born in the year 2000, and that's when we had a leap year, which means when we have 29 days in February. So his birthday is February 29th. So he gets to choose when he wants to celebrate it, the 28th or March 1st. But he only gets a real birthday every 4 years, so people like to make a lot of jokes about that.
Yes.
He'll be 15 this weekend, and next year he'll have a real birthday because he'll be 4. So he'll be 16.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, lots of people that I know have birthdays in February, so popular. On Facebook, at least, I got a lot of notifications, different days in February. Okay, guys, let's see. Ishmael, how are you?
Hi Lisa, I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm having a good week, almost to Friday.
Yes.
You're closer than I am. You're almost to Friday.
Yes, Lisa.
Cool. All right. What?
After 5 hours.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. In the United States, we say TGIF.
Thanks God for Friday.
Yeah. If you're looking for the weekend. Yeah. All right. Jose, you're back. Welcome back. Good to have you again. All right. Yeah. Nice. All right. And we just heard from Jose. He was telling us about his town in Brazil. It's quite the cowboy town. Lots of cowboys in the area. The capital of the cowboys.
Or Brazilian Texas.
Exactly. All right. Cool. And I didn't get to say it in the last class, but when you shared about the rodeo type of thing where the guys were grabbing the bulls and pulling on the tail, that looks really dangerous. In the United States, what they do, one of the events is where they lasso, they use a rope, and they lasso, but they're small calves, not the big, huge cows or bulls. So that's a little bit more difficult to try to grab that tail. That's crazy. All right, and Amparo, you're back. Thanks. Thanks for sharing what you shared about Cuba. That was interesting. I have to go there someday. And Amparo, I don't know how your connection is now, but
I don't know.
okay.
It's like
we'll see.
you are frozen again.
Okay.
I have a big delay.
A big delay. Okay. Yeah. Are you having any weather, like rain or anything like that, or it's just the connection?
Well, here at the south of the city, no. But at the north, yes, it was raining this morning. And they
Oh, okay.
said that it was yeah, it was a heavy rain. But here it was just a light rain, and just for 30 minutes, no more. But
Okay.
I don't know, maybe, yeah, there are some issues at the north of where the antenna from my
Yeah.
provider are.
Yeah, we never know what's going on with our connections. Okay, and welcome, Albina. How are you today?
Hello, not bad, great. I'm glad to join your class.
Okay, I'm glad to have you in class. It's always great to see the same people over and over, get to know you guys a little bit, so it's fun to have you in class. So thanks for coming. Okay, so what I have for you guys for this hour is a reading from The New Yorker. The New Yorker magazine. If you've come to my reading classes before, you're familiar with it a little bit, perhaps, because I take articles from The New Yorker. It's a magazine, been around for a very long time, but of course, like everything now, it also has a website where you can find articles about lots of different topics. The thing about The New Yorker, just so you guys know, it is one of the magazines that's known to be, a little bit higher level, a little bit more perhaps for educated people versus something like People Magazine or something that's talks about the movie stars and stuff. So this talks about things related to psychology, science, technology, literature, culture, stuff like that. So it's a good place to go if you want to, have a good, intelligent article that refers to maybe some research or talks about topics at a little bit higher level, not just even at the regular news level. So it's a good place to go. So we have this article today, which is called "No Mornings Don't Make You Moral." Okay. Let me say hi to Martin. Hi, Martin.
Hello, Lisa.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, good. Welcome. Martin, how about you mute your microphone when it's not your turn to talk? There's some noise in the background there. Okay? There. That. Oh, maybe it's Ishmael. Ishmael. Okay. All right. I don't know. It's a good idea if people mute their microphones just because if there's some noise in the background, people who have headphones on especially, they hear it really loud. And we lost Amparo. She's having trouble with her computer connection or internet connection. So hopefully she'll be back, and when she comes back, then she can have a turn to read as well. Okay. All right. So let's get started. The way I do this is I read a little bit at a time out loud. The purpose for me reading out loud is for you to listen, for you to hear how I'm pronouncing the words, how I'm saying the phrases or the sentences, and you can either read along, yourself while I'm speaking, or you can just kind of even close your eyes and see whether or not you can understand just by listening. So that's a listening practice. And then I will have you guys take turns reading, and you'll read this same part that I just read. This article isn't too long, so we'll be able to get through it. Sometimes they're really long. And then I'll go over some vocabulary, some expressions, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me. You can make comments in the chat as well. And then if we have time, we can get your guys' comments, see what you have to say about this. It's talking about, you know, night owls versus the early birds, that kind of thing. So you can think about yourself. Do you consider yourself a night owl who likes to stay up late? Or, Jose, you're giving the thumbs up to night owls, okay? Thumbs up, all right. And some people like to go to bed early so they can wake up early and get things done in the morning. So we'll see. You'll get to figure out what you are and what you like. I mean, you already know, but we'll see what it has to say in this article. And Saud, hi. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and your microphone sounds good. Perfect. All right, we're getting started, so I'll start reading first. Title, no. So no, and then the comma, that's how you would say it. No, and then whenever the comma is there, it's kind of like take a breath, you know. No, mornings don't make you moral. So the idea of morality is like good or bad. You know, I'm better than this person. This is a better thing to do than that thing. So what does she mean? Let's figure out what she's talking about. This is an author named Maria Konnikova. She's originally from Russia, but she grew up most of her life, I think, in the United States, and she's written at least one book. I've read one of her books. It was really good. And so she likes to write articles related to topics related to psychology and people and how we think and habits that we have and that kind of stuff. Okay. The idea of the virtuous early bird goes back at least to Aristotle, who wrote in his Economics that rising before daylight is to be commended. It is a healthy habit. Benjamin Franklin, of course, framed the same sentiment in catchier terms. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. All right, so that's a saying that we've grown up with here in the United States. Okay, Albino, why don't we start with you?
Okay, the idea of virtuous early bird goes back at least to Aristotle, who wrote in his Economics that rising before daylight is to be commended. It's a healthy habit. Benjamin Franklin, of course, framed the same sentiment in catchier term. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Mm-hmm. Good. Have you heard that saying before, Albina?
Yeah. Yes.
English? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Good.
It's
Okay.
famous.
Yes, it's pretty famous. Okay, so the idea of the virtuous. So here's the idea of virtue, of being good, being a good person. You know, if you go to bed early, oh, you're so, you know, good. So that's what the idea of this idea of virtuous. To virtue is the noun, you know, to have virtue, but to be virtuous. It goes back at least to. So it goes. The idea of this goes back. So we go back in time. So it means it comes from. So at least, you know, we know that Aristotle was thinking about this idea that it's better, you know, that's the idea of, you know, judging it, better to get up early in the morning. And he had his saying here, rising before daylight, so before it is daylight, you know, before the sun comes up, is to be commended. So if it's something is to be commended, it's to be applauded, to be recognized. You know, you tell somebody, good job, that's commending somebody. Because his belief was that it's a healthy habit, something that's good for you. And then, of course, Benjamin Franklin, a famous American guy, he framed, that means the way you talk about something is how you frame it. Like if you frame the argument this way or that way, it's how you focus on it, you know, so you want to make a point. So he framed the same sentiment, the same idea, the same sense, but using catchier terms. Catchier terms means like words that sound better, words that are catchy that people will remember. Usually something is catchy if it rhymes. So he has a little rhyme here. We talk about songs as being catchy. Commercial jingles, the little songs that they play in commercials, those can be catchy. So it means people like them, and it's very easy to remember. So early to bed and early to rise, which means to get up, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So if you go to bed early and you get up early, he's saying you're going to be healthy and you're going to be rich, you're going to have money, and you're going to be smart. You're going to have knowledge. You're going to have wisdom. So you will.
Excuse me, Lisa. Why he stated a man? What about a woman?
Well, they didn't care about women back then. Just kidding. Yeah. Well, he's a white man, you know, American white man, and I think they mostly used man. But in English language, it is true. We mostly use man to mean a human being. So there's that, you know, that's a more controversial topic these days with women's rights. But historically, traditionally, whenever you use the word man in this sense, it refers to man representing humans, you know, human beings. So I see your point, but it's true. It's true.
Why
Yeah. What?
okay. Why it was a capital letter?
Yes. You know, people kind of just do whatever they want when they're writers, and so I think she's taking it from probably his book. And when you're a writer, and especially in the past, I think people capitalized things to add an emphasis. So
Understand.
yeah, so add an emphasis. You know, bed. You got to go to bed early. Early to rise makes a man. So that's the point. Makes a human. And of course, back then, you know, he was probably talking about men in terms of, you know, wealth. I don't think women were getting wealthy back in his day. So, but it was a general idea that if a person goes to bed early, you can get up early in the morning, and then you can get a lot of things done, and that way you'll be healthy. You'll have enough time to make money, and you'll learn a lot of things so that you'll be wise. That's the basic idea. Okay, good question. More recently, there has been a push for ever earlier work starts, conference calls and breakfast meetings, and a steady stream of advice to leave Twitter and Facebook to the afternoon and spend the morning getting real things done. And there may be some truth to the idea. A 1998 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology suggests that we become more passive as the day wears on. You should do the most important things first, the theory goes, because, well, you won't be able to do it quite as well later on. Okay, Anatoly.
More recently, there has been a push for even early work starts, conference calls and breakfast meetings, and a steady stream of advice to leave Twitter and Facebook to the afternoon and spend in the morning getting real things done. And there may be some truth to the idea. A 1998 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology suggests that we become more passive as the day wears on. You should do the most important things first, the theory goes, because, well, you won't be able to do it quite as well later on.
Okay, so more recently, because obviously going back to Aristotle, that's a long time ago. Even Benjamin Franklin, that's quite a long time ago. So what do people say nowadays? All right, so there has been a push for. So if there's a push for something, it means a lot of people are telling you, hey, you know, this is the best thing to do. We should do this. And it means nowadays people writing books about it, people writing blog posts about it, people, you know, giving their employees information, that kind of stuff. So people push for things nowadays in that way. So a lot of people saying, you know, we should have earlier work starts. So a start is the beginning. So you should begin your work day even earlier. Maybe have conference calls in the morning, breakfast meetings in the morning, and a steady stream of advice. So a steady stream of something just means like consistent. If it's steady, it's like day after day, week after week. You keep hearing, you keep reading the same type of advice. So a stream is like a small little creek or river, you know, small river. That's a stream. So the idea is it just keeps flowing, this advice you keep getting. So part of the advice the counsel, is to leave Twitter and Facebook to the afternoon. So if you leave something, this is the expression, to leave something to the afternoon means you don't do it until the afternoon. Instead, you should spend the morning, spend time in the morning getting real things done. So doing, quote, real things. So things that are important, not Twitter and Facebook. Getting your work done. That's what she means by real things. Okay. Does somebody have a question? No? Okay. All right, so she says there may be some truth to this idea, and then she says there's a study that suggests, so a study, you know, basically says that we become more passive. Passive means just we're not so active. So you have active, you're very, you know, active, action-oriented, you're busy, you're getting things done, and then when you're passive, you kind of get maybe tired, you're not so busy, you're not so wanting to do, you know, stuff, things that you need to do. So people get more passive as the day wears on. As the day wears on means as the day continues. So, you know, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., now it's 1 p.m. So as the day gets later and later, we become more and more passive. That's what it suggests. And so the theory goes, so she's kind of saying, well, this is what they say. This is their theory, the study. You should do the most important things first because you might not be able to do it quite as well later on. So if you don't do the most important things in your day first, you might not do them as well. You might not do a good job of them later in the day, later on. In last January's issue of Psychological Science, Miriam Kuchaki and Isaac Smith took that theory even further, proposing what they called the morning morality effect, which posits that people behave better earlier in the day. Their research caught the attention of Sunita Saw, a behavioral scientist at Georgetown University and a professed night owl. For the previous 5 years, Saw had been studying how different situations influence ethical behavior. Okay, Ismail.
In last January's issue of Psychological Science, Mariam Kauchaki and Isaac Smith took that theory even further, proposing what they called the morning morality effect, which posits that people behave better earlier in the day. Their research caught the attention of Sunita Shah, a behavioral scientist at Georgetown University and a professed night owl. For the previous 5 years, Shah had been studying how different situations influence ethical behavior.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, these two people, they took that theory even further. So that's the expression, to take something even further. So they're trying to, you know, go to like the next level, to the next step. They take that other theory as the basis, and then they propose something even a little bit further than that. So a little bit maybe more wide-ranging or something. So they're proposing something called the morning morality effect. Now, what does that even mean? It means, they say it means, if they posit, that means to like make an argument for something. They argue that people behave better earlier in the day. So that's a moral judgment there, like, you know, your behavior, ethical behavior, that kind of thing. And so their research caught the attention of. So this means this person, Sunita, got interested in. So if something catches your attention, it means you say, that's interesting, I want to know more. So you're interested in that. It catches your attention. And so this person is a behavioral scientist studying human behavior, but also a professed night owl. So a professed means kind of like, sometimes we say self-professed, means we call ourselves a night owl. So he, I think it's, I'm not sure, he or she. She, her, no, so I don't know yet. This person, Sunita, says that he or she is a night owl. So if you profess to be something, you're describing yourself. You know, I'm a professed early bird, or a professed night owl, or I'm a professed chocolate lover, or, you know, something like that. How you describe yourself. And so Sunita has been studying how different situations influence ethical behavior. So that's right up Sunita's alley, we say, in terms of figuring out, does it affect your ethical decision making, whether or not you're up in the morning or you're up late at night. All right, you always hear these sweeping statements. Morning is saintly, evening is bad, early to bed, early to rise. She told me recently, a former physician, she found it plausible that something with such profound health consequences as time of day might also have a moral dimension. But she wondered how strong the effect really was. Were people like her, principled late risers, the exception to the rule? To test the limits of Kuchaki and Smith's findings, Sa and her colleagues began by looking at the underlying biology. Okay, Jose. You can read this paragraph there.
Okay, let's go.
Let's
You
go.
always hear these sweeping statements. Morning is saintly, evening is bad, early to bed, early to rise. He told me recently, a former physician, he found it plausible that something with such profound health consequences as time of day might also have a moral dimension. But she wondered how strong the effect really was. Were people like her, principal late risers, the exception to the rule? To test the limits of Kobayashi and Smith's findings, Sa and her colleagues began by looking at the underlying biology.
Okay. All right. So you always hear these sweeping statements. So if you describe something as sweeping, it means it covers a lot of ground or a lot of territory, or, you know, morning is saintly. That's a sweeping statement. You're saying that people who get up early in the morning are better. You know, that's a big statement. That is a quite something to say. It's not very accurate necessarily, but it covers a whole bunch of people, is the idea of sweeping, making a big statement about something. And this is the example. You know, morning is saintly. Like, is that true, really? That people who get up, but evening is bad. That's a sweeping statement. Early to bed, early to rise. All right, so she's a former physician, which means before now. She used to be a physician. Now she's a scientist, researcher. She found it plausible. Plausible means possible. You know, it's possible that it could be true, that something with such profound health consequences, meaning important, significant, profound usually means deep, but in this case it means significant or something that's really important, as time of day might also have a moral dimension. So maybe there is something related to how people behave in terms of their biology, when they're waking up, when they're going to sleep, that kind of thing. But she wondered. So when you wonder, you kind of ask yourself. So scientists wonder about a lot of things. How strong was the effect? Really, that's what, you know, does it really make a difference? And her question, of course, was related to her personally. A principled late riser. If you're a principled, it means you're a morally upright person. So she considered herself to be a moral person, but she's a late riser. You know, so that means she gets up late. She goes to bed late, and so therefore you rise, or you get up, or you wake up later, maybe like 9 o'clock instead of 6 a.m. or something. Were people like her, the people who were good people, who were late risers, were they the exception to the rule? So the exception to the rule is somebody who doesn't fit the rule. So people like her, yeah, maybe night owls are, you know, don't get that much stuff done. Maybe even they make poor decisions, but not people like her. She would be the exception, okay, because she's principled, because she's already a stand-up person or a morally righteous, you know, person. So she wanted to test the limits of this. So she wanted to see whether or not their findings, you know, the findings they discovered in their paper, you know, if it was really true, and how far did it really go, And so they began by looking at the underlying biology. So when you say underlying, it means like what's under this, what's happening. So you have like the surface, that's called the superficial level, and then you get at the bottom of things, like what is going on underneath, you know. And so biology is happening. You know, what do our bodies want us to be doing? Our sleep patterns are governed by circadian rhythms, our body's response to changes in light and dark in a typical day. The rhythms are slightly different for every person, which is why our energy levels ebb and flow in ways that are unique to us. This internal clock determines what is called our chronotype, whether we are morning people, night people, or somewhere in between. Chronotypes are relatively stable, though they have been known to shift with age. Okay, Martin.
Our sleep patterns are governed by circadian
Okay.
rhythms.
Yeah.
Our bodies respond to changes in light and dark in a typical day. The rhythms are slightly different for every person, which is why our energy levels ebb and flow in ways that are unique to us. This internal clock determines what is called our chronotype, whether we are morning people, night people, or somewhere in between. Chronotypes are relatively stable, though they have been known to shift with age.
Yeah. Okay, our sleep patterns, like when we like to go to bed, when we like to get up, that's a pattern. They're governed by the circadian rhythm. So to be governed by means to be controlled by in terms of biology. So our circadian rhythms mean just how our body responds. So we have our bodies, and they respond to changes in light and dark during a typical day. So everybody has kind of different or slightly different, so somewhat different for every person, different rhythms. And this is why our energy levels ebb and flow. To ebb and flow means to kind of go up and go down. So it's kind of unique to each person. When do you have an energy spike, like an increase in your energy, and when does it go down? It's a little bit different for everybody. This is what they call an internal clock. Our body, inside our biology of our body, that is an internal clock, and they give it a name called the chronotype. So you might be a morning person, you might be a night person, or somewhere in between. Like maybe it's okay if you go to bed, but not too late, you don't get up too early, that type of thing. They're relatively stable, so mostly stable throughout your lifetime. You know, you're born that way is kind of the idea. Stable means they stay the same pretty much, but they can shift with age. So as people get older, maybe their chronotype changes a little bit. Their sleeping patterns become a little different. All right, children and older adults generally prefer mornings. Adolescents and young adults prefer evenings. Figuring out where you fall is simple. Spend a few weeks going to bed when you feel tired and waking up without an alarm clock. A quicker alternative is the Osterberg questionnaire, which presents various scenarios, a difficult exam, twice weekly exercise with a friend, and determines your chronotype on the basis of what time of day you'd feel most up to confronting them. Let me just put it on the same page there. Okay. So.
Children and older adults generally prefer mornings. Adolescents and young adults prefer evenings. Figuring out where you fall is simple. Spend a few weeks going to bed when you feel tired and waking up without an alarm clock. A quicker alternative is the Osterberg questionnaire, which presents various scenarios. A difficult exam, twice weekly exercise with a friend, and determines your chronotype on the basis of what time of day you would feel most up to confronting them.
Okay, good. All right, let me go over it. So generally, you can say generally speaking, or in general, most often, Children, young children, and older adults prefer mornings. So that's the early child who wakes you up at 6 a.m. gets out of bed with all that energy. Or the older adults seem to need less sleep, and they often get up early in the morning as well. That's the idea. Adolescents, so young teenagers, people like that, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, they don't really want to go to bed. They want to stay up late. So that's kind of the idea. To figure out, discover, where do you fall? Where do you fall on this continuum here? Are you an early morning person? Or are you a late evening? So here's one way of doing it. If you can, that would be kind of hard for a lot of people, just try to go to bed when you feel tired, and then wake up without an alarm clock. So just do your own rhythm. No clocks telling you when to go to bed, what time to get up, that kind of thing. But a quicker alternative. So another way that you could figure out if you are a morning person or an evening person is to answer these questions. Basically, if you had to take a difficult exam, when would you want to do it? In the morning or in the evening? Or what about this? Twice weekly exercise with a friend. Do you want to do the exercise in the morning, or would you rather do it in the evening? And that will determine your chronotype in terms of what day you feel most up to. If you feel up to something, means you feel like doing it. If you feel up to taking an exam in the morning, you would be a morning person, and then vice versa. Confronting them means to do them. So you have to confront this exam. You have to confront, going to the exercise. You want to do it. Chronotype, of course, doesn't control wakefulness all on its own. There is also what is known as homeostatic sleep drive. The longer we are awake, irrespective of where we are in our established circadian rhythms, the more fatigue exerts its pressure on us. In morning people, sleep drive and chronotype tend to be aligned. Their internal clocks are pretty well synchronized with their overall energy levels. Okay, Amparo.
Chronotype, of course, doesn't control wakefulness all on its own. There is also what is known as homeostatic sleep drive. The longer we are awake, irrespective of where we are in our established circadian rhythm, the more fatigue exerts its pressure on us. In morning people, sleep drive and chronotype tend to be aligned. Their internal clocks are pretty well synchronized with their overall energy levels.
Good. Okay, so chronotype, of course, doesn't control wakefulness. So wakefulness means how awake do you feel. All right, that's about the idea of your energy going up and down throughout the day, that kind of thing. So it's not the only thing. There's also this thing called homeostatic. Hello. I say. Saeed, I'm just gonna mute you here for a second. There's a lot of noise. I can't mute you. All right. Try to mute yourself. All right. Homeostatic is the idea of homeostasis, when you're trying to get to an equilibrium. So basically, our bodies want to have an equilibrium. That's what that kind of means there. The longer we're awake, the more hours. That's what that's referring to. Irrespective of. Okay, so irrespective of something means it doesn't matter, where we are in our established cycle. So it doesn't really matter where you are. The more fatigue exerts its pressure. So it doesn't matter for everybody. The longer you're awake, you get more tired. That's kind of the idea. Our bodies need to sleep. Okay, the fatigue, the tiredness exerts its pressure on us. So no matter if you're a morning person or a night person, the longer amount of time you're actually awake, you're just going to get tired. That's basically what it says. You're going to become fatigued, just in terms of how long you've been awake. So in morning people, sleep drive and chronotype tend to be aligned. Aligned means on the same page. You're like working together. All right. Their internal clocks are pretty well synchronized. Again, synchronized, working together, aligned with their overall energy levels. So your sleep drive and the time you get up in the morning, they're going together, working for you. But for night owls, however, things get complicated. When the sun comes up, the light resets their circadian clocks, telling them to wake up. But because of their chronotypes, they don't have much energy, and they want to go back to sleep. At night, the reverse happens. One system is telling them to sleep, and another is telling them to remain awake. About 40% of people fall into this latter category. Okay. Hi, Amit.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Well, you just came in time to read if you want to read this last paragraph I just read.
Can I read?
Yes.
Okay. For night owls, however, things get complicated. When the sun comes up, the light resets their circadian clocks, telling them to wake up. But because of their chronotypes, they don't have much energy and they want to go back to sleep. At night, the reverse happens. One system is telling them to sleep and another is telling them to remain awake. About 40% of people fall into this latter category.
Good. All right. So in the morning people, it's aligned. It works with the light. You know, that's the circadian rhythm, the light and the dark. But then you also have the sleep drive, how long you've already been awake. And then if you've been up a lot, you start getting tired. But for night owls, it gets complicated. So it's a little bit more difficult with them because they have the sun coming up. That's how we talk about the sun comes up. It rises. And so this light that your eyes see, that your body gets exposed to, resets their circadian clocks, telling them to wake up. So just like everybody, it's telling everybody to wake up. But they have a chronotype, which is like an evening person, a night owl. They don't have a lot of energy. They want to go back to sleep. And then at night, the reverse. So the opposite thing happens. The dark time is telling them to go to sleep. You know, it's dark, no more light, go to sleep. But the other part of their rhythm, their chronotype, is telling them to stay awake. This is when you have energy now. You got to work now, you know. And this happens, I guess, to about 40% of the people in the latter. So when you talk about two things, the first one and then the next one, the latter is the second one. Okay, so the latter category is the night owl. Saw began her research by assuming that we are different people at different hours. In a series of studies, she and her colleagues, Brian Guinea and Christopher Barnes, examined whether time of day affected the likelihood that a person would cheat at a game. They selected their participants by chronotype, so morning person, evening person, focusing on those who fell on either side of the Horn-Osterberg scale, those who preferred morning and those who preferred night. Okay, Alvina.
Shah began her research by assuming that we are different people at different hours. In series of studies, she and her colleagues, Brian Guinea and Christopher Barnes, examined whether time of day affected the likelihood that a person could cheat at a game. They selected their participant by chronotype, focusing on those who fell on either side of the Horn-Osterberg scale, those who preferred morning and those who preferred night.
Okay. All right, so she started by assuming. So she started by assuming, so she made the assumption. All right, so she thinks, she says to herself, different people act differently at different hours. So that's her assumption. Let's see if it's true, right? So they wanted to see how likely would it be. So the likelihood just means how likely is it that a person would cheat at a game, and is it affected by the time of day? You know, is it 6 a.m., 3 p.m., 10 p.m., something like that. So to cheat means to do something, you know, to win, but something that's against the rules maybe. So you cheat. That's a moral thing. Remember, we're talking about morality here. So she wanted to focus on, so you have to use the on there with focus, to focus on people who are on either side. So if you fall on either side, it means she didn't want to talk to the people in the middle, okay? You had to really talk to morning people, you know, self-professed morning people, or people who really preferred the night, not the people who could do it either way. In one study, participants recorded how many number matrices they had solved correctly. In another, they noted how they had performed in a die rolling task. In both cases, they had the opportunity to cheat. They were allowed to score themselves and a monetary incentive to do so. Aha, they got set up. Okay, Anatoly.
Okay. In one study, participants recorded how many numbers matrices they had solved correctly. In another, they noted how they had performed in the die rolling task. In both cases, they had the opportunity to cheat. They were allowed to score themselves and monetary incentive to do so.
Okay, so the basic idea is they gave them a couple of things to do, solve some problems, and also to roll some dice. So the die, you know, the little cubes that have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And either case, either task that they had to do, they had the opportunity to cheat. So it was possible, and monetary, which means money, a money incentive to cheat. So it was kind of like, are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? So some people did cheat less in the morning, saw found, but only if they were early birds to begin with. The opposite was also true. Night owls cheated less in the evening. Time of day had less effect on honesty, the group concluded, than did the synchronicity between person and environment. Our results should really dissipate those stereotypes of morning people being more saintly, Saw says. The important thing is the match. Okay, Ismail.
Some people did cheat less in the morning. Lisa,
Yeah?
I have background noise.
Oh, I don't hear any noise. Let's see.
Okay. Some people did cheat less in the morning.
Okay.
Saffron,
Yeah.
but only. Lisa, I'm listening my background noise always. Some people did cheat less in the morning, Saf found, but only if they were early birds to begin with. The opposite was also true. Night owls cheated less in the evening. Time of the day had less effect on honesty, the group concluded, than did the synchronicity between person and environment. Our results should really dissipate those stereotypes of morning people being more saintly. Seth say the important thing is the match.
Okay. Are you hearing an echo now when I turn off my mic?
No.
Let me turn it on. Okay. All right. So let's just keep going. We're almost done here. So some people did cheat less, but the main thing about this paragraph is it was the time of day. All right. The time of day didn't matter unless that was your time of day. So it was the important thing was the match. The early morning people taking the test in the morning didn't cheat. The late evening people taking the test in the evening didn't cheat. That's called synchronicity. So you have a synchronicity when you're a match, you're aligned between your person. I'm a night owl, so I take the test at night, I do well. I don't cheat. It's if it's opposite when you have the problems. So her point is that this might dissipate. To dissipate means to break up. So let's just forget about these stereotypes. Let's break up. Let's break down. Let's dispel these myths that just because morning people get up really early does not make them more saintly. All right, that was her point there. Early birds aren't ethically superior, and to the extent that other research suggests that they are, it may just be that they are luckier. Modern society, for the most part, is built around their preferences. We are expected to function well early in the morning. We can't just wake up when our bodies tell us to and work when we feel at our peak. Okay, Jose, you want to read? Or are you busy?
Hello?
Do you want to read?
Yeah, early birds aren't definitely superior, and to the extent that other research suggests that they are, it may just be that they are luckier. Modern society, for the most part, is built around their preferences. We are expected to function well early in the morning. We can't just wake up when our bodies tell us to and work when we feel at our peak.
All right, sorry, can you hear me? I muted myself. Okay, good. Early birds aren't ethically superior. So ethically meaning morally, and superior meaning better. So that is not true. Just because you wake up early in the morning doesn't make you a better person than a night owl person. To the extent that other research suggests that they are, to the extent that it means that some research has suggested that, but maybe the real reason, the real cause of this, why they got their results, is just that they're luckier. Our modern day society, for the most part, that means like mostly or in general, is built around their preferences. So most businesses, work days start early in the morning and then end earlier in the day. We are expected to function well early in the morning. So people expect us, our bosses expect us, our teachers expect students to get there early in the morning and then be able to perform. But this is a problem. The problem is we can't just wake up when our bodies tell us to and work when we feel at our peak. Our peak is our best. So, that would mean you basically could go to work whenever you felt like it, and you would do your work whenever was the best time. Some people who work from home have that option, but most people in the 9 to 5 work day, they don't have that option. So if you're a night owl, you might have problems. For Saul, this research is the first part of a broader examination. She is currently studying whether people who have clear ethical responsibilities in their careers, financial advisors, for instance, or doctors, make decisions with greater clarity when their work schedules and chronotypes align. We need to think not just about ethical decision making, but the quality of the work and the cognitive processes, she told me. Martin.
For Saad, this research is the first part of a broader examination. She is currently studying whether people who have clear ethical responsibilities in their careers, financial advisors, for instance, or doctors, make decisions with greater clarity when their work schedules and chronotypes align. We need to think not just about ethical decision making, but the quality of the work and the cognitive processes, she told me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so that's just the first part of a broader examination. So broader means wider, larger. She wants to, discover more about this topic. So she's currently studying people who have clear ethical responsibilities. So people who need to make, really strong ethical decisions, like financial advisors, people who work with money, also doctors making decisions about treatments, things like that. When do they make their decisions with greater clarity, with more precision, with better understanding? Maybe it's important for them to work at a time that is aligned with their chronotype. So she's thinking about that, not just the ethical decision making, but also quality of work. How good is your production? What does your work look like? If you're a night owl but you're waking up and going to work at 6 a.m., that might not be a good thing for you. And also the cognitive processes. Cognitive processes means thinking. So how do people think in terms of their day? Okay, it's much better to match people to schedules and structures based on their chronotype than to just force them into a schedule knowing nothing. She added, I probably don't want to set exams at 8 a.m. if I don't want my students to cheat. Ultimately, the best policy may be to understand and embrace your chronotype. Saw says that it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to overcome your predisposition and train yourself to function better at times that don't match up with your inner clock. Okay, Saud?
Okay. From there is very.
It's much better.
It's much better to match people to schedules and structures based on their chronotype than to just force them into a schedule. Knowing nothing, she added, I probably don't want to sit exam at 8 a.m. if I don't want my schedule to cheat. Ultimately, the best policy may be to understand and embrace your chronotype. Sah says that it's incredible, difficult, but impossible to overcome your predisposition and train yourself to function better on times that don't match up with your inner clock.
Okay, good. All right, so we're almost going to be out of time here. So the basic idea is maybe it's a good idea to know your chronotype if you're a morning person or an evening person, and if you can, try to do the things that are important at the time of day that works for you. So maybe as a teacher, knowing that a lot of young adults like to stay up really late, maybe she shouldn't set her exams, like have an exam at 8 a.m. in the morning. If she doesn't want her students to cheat, more likely that they will cheat because probably they are night owls at that age. Okay, so the best policy means the best idea, maybe to just understand and embrace. Embrace means to accept, to just go with it. Don't try to fight it. She says, of course, that's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to overcome your predisposition. Your predisposition is how you were born, what you were born with. So whatever you are predisposed to means what you are already naturally going towards. If you're going towards being a morning person or a night person, that's probably not going to be easy to overcome. And train yourself. So educate yourself and then train yourself to function better, so to be more productive at times that don't match up. So that's going to be impossible is what she's saying. It's pretty difficult to do that. So there's very little evidence that anything really works, she says. That's kind of a hopeless statement there. So late risers can take heart. They are neither immoral nor slothful, but as long as the world isn't operating on their terms, and unless they're lucky enough to work in a place that endorses flexible scheduling, the early birds may still get the worms. Okay, Amparo.
There's very little evidence that anything really works, she said. So late risers can take heart. They are neither immoral nor slothful. But as long as the world isn't operating on their terms, and unless they are lucky enough to work in a place that endorses flexible scheduling, the early birds may still get the worms.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jose. Nice having you in class. See you later. Yeah, we're almost done here now anyway, so take care. Okay, so this is kind of a bummer ending here because you can take heart means, take heart means, okay, here's some evidence, don't worry about it. You're not an immoral person just because you like to stay up late. You're not slothful like a sloth. You're not lazy. It's just your normal pattern. But, here's the big but. If you're living in the modern world and you're working at a place where you got to get there early, it's probably not going to be the best for you, but maybe you have to look for a job that endorses flexible scheduling, like Verbling. Verbling is a great opportunity for people who have flexible schedules. If you like to teach classes in the morning or you can teach classes at night, that type of thing. So at least in modern day society, we have the internet and people can work at all different times of the day. So, all right, you guys. Well, anybody want to make a quick comment before we leave the class? Before we finish? Does it make you feel better or worse about what you are? Yeah. Well,
I'm the middle.
Yeah.
Not early, not late.
You're in between?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In between, yeah.
Yeah. You're flexible that way. Yeah, it's really hard if you're a night owl, and school can be really hard for some kids, especially in the teenage years. Getting up early, it's really hard for them. They kind of like sleepwalk through the first class or two classes until they wake up. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for coming. Maybe we'll have a speaking class in the future about this idea. People can talk more about their personal preferences and how they live their life and pros and cons and things, and whether or not you've tried to change it. Some people do change. You know, some people can make an effort, but it's kind of hard, I guess. Thanks for coming to class, and have a great day, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
teacher. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye, Hamid.
Bye,
See ya.
everybody.